Howdy, welcome to Baseball Insider's Prospect Show. Go Knicks. I'm Adam Weinrib, joined as I am every Tuesday by Fansided's prospect guru and also just all-around great guy, MLB staff writer Eric Cole. This week, we are detailing the risers and fallers, as we always do, prospect names that are hot, prospect names that are frigid, as well as a few fun future position battles looming based on some competition both the high minors and the major league level. A couple of teams are getting to a boiling point. One is not addressing it just yet. It's definitely in the rear view, though. Sneaking up objects behind you may be closer than they appear for the New York Yankees. And of course, we will be answering your questions. It is May 6th. It's not trade deadline season. We're not there, but it's getting to the point where when you're looking at risers and fallers, you're looking at people that are moving up the charts and down the charts and are losing value or gaining steam. That is going to matter when it comes to this summer's activity. And we are certainly talking about players who could be on the move. And the position battle thing only exacerbates that. Eric, thank you for joining me as you do every Tuesday to talk through the latest in the minor leagues.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I am excited for you and your Knicks. I confess that I grew up a Knicks fan, but that phase of my life ended because of how bad the Knicks were for so long. So at the same time, like, I'm happy that you are happy, and I hope that everyone who's watching basketball right now is enjoying themselves. Hockey as well. Again, I'm just happy to be talking some minor league baseball. It's been a pretty fun week, and just more and more things keep happening, mainly because of the Athletics, who are just calling up everybody that they have in their farm system, I guess.
Yeah, we doubted how willing they would be to do something like that. And then they did it like 6 more times. So who knows? Nobody knows. But we hope that you still trust the Prospect Show, even though we got the Gunnar Hoagland call up wrong. Every Tuesday at noon Eastern time, we'll be doing this show here on the Baseball Insiders channel. You can also talk to Eric and I and Robert Murray, Fansided's MLB Insider. He'll be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the Discord channel. So if you've not joined yet, if you're not a member, you join us either the Rumor Mill tier, which is where Robert does a private Q&A every Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern, or in the All-Star tier, we've got All-Star exclusive video content trying to lean into Robert's expertise in terms of how he got to where he is. So if that's the kind of thing that interests you, if you have interest in baseball beyond the rumor mill, it's a good place to be right now. It's some pretty fun exclusive content coming, but you can always bother Eric, Robert, and myself with questions between shows. You can also subscribe to the Moonshot. That's where you can get all of our writing. Robert Murray helps break down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info in that weekly roundup. Eric and I are also there. You can also read that on the Baseball Insiders feed on Fansided.com. Fansided.com/baseball-insiders for Eric's prospect column, Robert's news and notes, and just some overall weirdness for me. I yelled about bobblehead giveaways a couple times in the last week. I'll probably do it again. You can't stop me. You can try. You cannot contain my rage. I also love the Diamondback City Connect, so come at me. Apparently, everybody loves the White Sox ones that I hated. I've been wrong a couple of times, according to the general public. I think the White Sox Bulls jerseys are the worst City Connects maybe that I've ever seen. The internet has decided, no, your take is wrong. They're actually a beautiful crossover, and okay, fine. I prefer Jamal Crawford's crossover, but that's just me. And I hated one of the other ones that came out last week. I hated too. I've already forgotten the other bad city. Oh, the Marlins. That was another one. Like, again, a comment that I just cannot get on board with. Somebody being like, if you hate these, you obviously didn't see the Heat City, the Miami Knights jerseys. And to that, I say, no, I did see them. They were better. That's why I hate these. These are like those, but worse. They already did those. The Heat did them, and they were good. Hope that helps. Heat culture. But let's talk prospects instead of yelling about stuff that's already on the internet elsewhere, and you can find in other spots. Let's go with the future position battles first, and probably the biggest non-major league promotion of last week and the weekend. And it was big because Robert had it, sat on it, was like, that's not the kind of news I usually break. And then Jeff freaking Passan broke it. George Lombard Jr. got promoted to Double-A. And I think because Passan tweeted it, Yankee shortstop, third base, negligible prospect. I think because Passan tweeted it, a lot of people assumed he's coming right to the bigs at 19. He is not. He's just going to Double-A Somerset. Still one of the youngest players at that level, and he's still having an absurd start to the season, hitting .329 in his second crack at High A in Hudson Valley, though it was just a cameo last year. But this is interesting because the timeline I think we all accepted was 2027. The Yankees slow play their prospects anyway. So you told me, hey, a 19-year-old's not going to get a big league shot till he's 21. That's not surprising to me in New York. But all of a sudden, I wouldn't call it a fast track, and I wouldn't say if he does make it to the majors, he's going to be a shortstop. I would assume that Anthony Volpe is your shortstop in New York, and Lombard Jr. is probably a third baseman, maybe second base. We don't know where Jazz Chisholm's going, but all of a sudden that timeline, if he continues to produce at a level like this, looks a little bit more like 2026 to me. So I'm curious as to your thoughts here on timeline, what it means, and what it means for the big league depth chart somewhere down the line.
Yeah, look, as soon as you get to AA, it comes down to how aggressive an organization is going to be. But that's where we start seeing guys getting called up to the big leagues from. So you're right at the door. And in Lombard's case, it's kind of strange, right? Because they have their shortstop in Anthony Volpe. He's not hitting particularly well right now. He's not fielding particularly well right now. But he's also been kind of lauded as this, like, he is going to be the shortstop of the future. But then you have George Lombard, who right now is hit over power. And that seems like it's probably the way it's going to stay. I understand he got a lot bigger and he'll hit for more power, maybe what we thought. But I still don't. I mean, we look at the sample size of games, he's hitting really well, but he's still not powering the ball a whole lot, right? So, and he's probably a better defender at shortstop than Volpe. It's debatable, but I think it's probably true. In which case, what do you do if you're the Yankees? How quickly do you move this kid if you are set on having Volpe as your shortstop? Now, if you're moving him quickly, maybe you have designs on Volpe's. You like Volpe's bat better, like at third base, or you could see him playing at second. Maybe you decide that you're going to move Lombard over to second. I could see that happening, but then you're up the middle. Assuming Volpe starts playing better defense, like up the middle, you'd be set for a long time. There's a lot of moving pieces to this. I wouldn't be shocked that there's a bunch of things on the table, but there's also a chance that Lombard right now, what he's doing is playing himself into being a trade chip. That's the kind of, especially if they had designs on a long-term guy, maybe on the free agent market at second, at shortstop, or third base, then you can all say, okay, we have Lombard. He's at a premium position. What teams need him and what can we get from them? And I could see all those things being true, but it's kind of wild that they moved him up this quickly, considering that, he had some struggles here and there last year, and now they're just sending him right to AA. If he starts hitting for some power there, then the Yankees are going to have some really tough decisions very soon.
Yeah, I was shocked to see him moving up, it merited a pass and tweet for me, maybe not for non-fans. But hey, if he's a trade chip, are there any other regressing closers in walk years with recent back injuries they could trade for? Are there any of those? Ryan Helsley, how's his back? Is his back okay?
You can always hurt it for him, I guess. I mean, just to make it work.
Brian Cashman could inquire as to whether he can hurt his back. Is there any way you can lower your value by hurting your back? We'd really appreciate that. Do us a solid. He does seem like a potential trade chip. They held him out of the rumored Kyle Tucker, Luis Heel mix. Ben Rice was involved there too this offseason, and an all-time sliding doors potential, depending on how the Yankee season turns out and whether Heel can come back and Kyle Tucker already doing his thing. It seems like every name I mentioned except for Heel is off to an absurd start this season. So I don't really know how that would have gone. But either way, definitely making himself. The Yankees appear to be reticent to trade him at this particular deadline they put out this week. We'll see if that holds depending on how the big league team plays over the next 2.5 months. Now to a team maybe under less immediate pressure, but hey, isn't it weird that the Chicago White Sox kind of have two viable long-term catchers all of a sudden in Edgar Quero and Kyle Teel? I don't know. It's not like Kyle Teel is ice cold anymore either. You and I are both believers in what he provides, a unique profile. I don't know if he'll ever be more than a 15 homer guy, but all of a sudden, after a tough start to the year, 259, 360 OBP, and the OPS up to 760. I don't know. What do you do if you have two 23-year-old catchers and Quero is up at the big league level, bat flipping walks and helping lead the revolution against the Houston Astros over the weekend? This is a weird one. There's nothing wrong with acquiring additional talent at cornerstone positions. It's impossible to uncover a catcher, and the Chicago White Sox, who haven't done anything right for 5 years, might have two now. So what do you make of this?
I might take the over on 5 years, first of all, but this is a weird situation, right? Because you have Quero, who I liked Quero fine, but I didn't see him hitting 300 in the big leagues and controlling the running game like he has. I just thought he might be like a useful everyday guy. Maybe on a good team, he's a backup guy who you gets 30% of the playing time. But he's been playing a lot better than that. But then you have Kyle Teel, who was pretty much the consensus one of the best catching prospects in baseball, might be just the best catching prospect in baseball, despite his slow start. is lauded for his ability to like manage a pitching staff. He understands the mental aspect of being a catcher. What do you do if you're the White Sox? I hope the answer isn't trade one of them immediately, because one, I don't think they have the answer as to which one's better, and frankly, I don't trust them to make that decision quickly from their. I think they just need to like let both these guys play in the big leagues, and that might just be the best solution anyway, because it's not like there's a ton of guys at DH in Chicago that are going to be taking a lot of playing time from either of these guys if they're hitting pretty well. So you like rotate them kind of like the way Houston does sometimes, where Yainer Diaz and Victor Caratini, they get time at DH, all that stuff. Once you do that, you are able to kind of assess who's your best hitter. Maybe you move the other guy. If they both hit really well, this is not a problem, right? It's just that this is just a weird position to have two like good bats, I guess. Mm-hmm. But this is the case where it could be, and then all of a sudden you can like open the door to all these pitching prospects that they've got. They have multiple players at other positions that they can start promoting up, and then the White Sox start getting interesting. But right now, I'm a little bit weirded out by the fact that they have two prospects that they actually haven't figured out a way to screw up. But overall, I think he's going to be. I think this is going to be a very interesting situation for them to evaluate. I just hope they don't evaluate things too quickly, because I frankly don't trust them to make a snap judgment on anything.
Correct. And I will say they do not have a first baseman unless Tim Elko comes up and becomes that guy. So, long term, yeah, he could. It would be great if he did. But long term, you are still looking for another position that requires quick hands. So you can deal with 16, 17 homers and a 320. If you can deal with Kyle Teel being John Olerud, then maybe that's where he goes. Maybe Quero, just beefs up and takes over a DH role in Chicago. A lot left to be played, but it is funny that a team that has had such trouble in recent years, and you can expand that to a decade. You can go all the way back to Gordon Beckham if you want. All of a sudden has just a position battle at the position where it's toughest to find top talent. We like both of these guys, and I love Kyle Teel. So we shall see. As for his previous organization, not to belabor the point, and I know no Red Sox fan really wants to think too hard about what it means for Triston Casas long-term, what happened to him over the weekend. That is horrid. Just one misstep at first is all it takes to rupture his patellar tendon. He is out for the year, and that is not just an out for the year type of injury. Tommy John surgery, as devastating as that is something that you can sort of bank on a recovery. And when it comes to patellar tendon, I don't know when Triston Casas will be comfortable putting weight on it. I don't know how it will affect his swing. Like, there are all sorts of things that worry me in the long term for a player who wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire with the Red Sox prior to this awful injury. So that has led to calls for the Red Sox to replace him with Roman Anthony, who they have yet to find room for. And Alex Bregman sort of backed them into a corner of not being able to find room for him. You move Devers off third, you put him at DH. You don't even have room for Yoshida, who'd be a great DH. Your outfield is full. You're not getting rid of Duran. You can't get rid of Rafaela. You don't want to get rid of Willie or Abreu. What do? So there's no room for the best prospect in baseball right now in Boston, even though Boston is 18-18, because all their best players fill the spots that Roman Anthony could play. So I hear you clamoring for Roman Anthony at first base. It would solve a lot right away. Would it solve a lot long-term? Are you stuck with him there if you move him there? You kind of are, because of all of these freaking outfielders. Maybe you can get rid of Yoshida eventually, but that doesn't solve all that much. Now Roman Anthony's still a DH, and that's where Devers is. So you got to be hoping for an Alex Bregman opt-out. Alex Bregman plays second base now. It's all a big pile of wet noodles tied in an inscrutable knot. But either way, I hear Red Sox fans clamoring for Anthony at first. I get it. Is this a position battle now? Do we have to think about Red Sox first base being held down by someone who is an outfielder for the foreseeable future?
So let's just get one thing out of the way. His bat is ready. Wherever he plays, Roman Anthony, he's putting up a 900 OPS wherever he plays. Everyone knows it. And so the question becomes, how hard do the Red Sox want to push this? I think that the most likely path is putting Devers at first base and then putting Roman Anthony at DH. That way you don't kind of like get another position in his head where maybe he can still convert back to the outfield. Maybe less pressure on him. You're not really relying on him in the field. It gets Devers back out in the field, which is something that he might want to. I'm not really sure why he would be super excited about first base, but at least it gets him out in the field, and maybe he ends up being good there, right? It's entirely possible, and that's a good fit. we've had two really bad injuries in baseball over the last week or so. When you had Casas and then you had Tyler Callahan last night in the Braves game. I mean, I hate seeing injuries like that. It just makes me want to stand up, just get away from the game because they were very obviously both bad. And I think that Casas, he's definitely out for the rest of the season. I think it's gonna be a long time into 2026 that he's gonna be out. So this is gonna be a situation where Boston has to kind of make a decision that is going to have some at least medium term consequences for their offseason, for their roster, for their competitiveness. And it starts with promoting Roman Anthony. Now, if you want to put him at first base and maybe give him some time over the next week or two to kind of see how it works in the minor leagues, then sure. I think that they should at least try that to see how he feels over there, as opposed to just, I mean, what they've started off saying is just, no, we're not doing that. We're not entertaining that. But they should be entertaining that because it would get him in their lineup and would solve what is a very obvious problem. But if he's over there for 2 weeks and he's like not going well, it's not acclimating to it, then you can in the background be talking to Devers and say, hey, look, we really think we might need you out there at first base. We're sorry that we basically lied to you and said that you could be at third base forever, and then we took you off of it because Bregman was available. But would you be willing to do that? And kind of go from there. Because I think that sort of moving Devers to the first, that way gets him back in the field, might make him a little bit happier. And then just getting Roman Anthony up is kind of where the priority should be. The outfield's a mess. I don't know if they're going to find takers for Yoshida, especially since every time there's an update, it's like another part of his body's failing. And, it's tough.
And the throwing practice he did the other day, if you're like doubting, if you think he's being held in purgatory, like he was grimacing, picking up. He looked like a guy relearning how to throw a baseball. So could he DH right now on that elbow? Like I honestly don't even, I thought I knew, but now I don't know. The answer may eventually be Ceddanne Rafael at a shortstop, Trevor Story to second, and then Trevor Story to garbage can when the contract expires. Maybe that's what you do right now. And Duran in center, Anthony in left, Christian Campbell, though, is complicating factor there. I mean, there's too many guys. There's
just too many dudes.
There's too many dudes and they're mid. The team is mid despite having too many talented dudes. I don't understand. But either way, I do think the bat is ready. But I do understand the Red Sox hesitating to make this move and looking at Romy Gonzalez and looking at, as they claimed, Anthony Rizzo. While we are here, we might as well start talking about the risers and fallers from last week instead of ranting about the Boston Red Sox for too long. Eric, who captured your attention last week? And yes, there was a name that you wanted to mention again, but we refreshed the list. We got you all newbies this week.
All right, before anyone gets mad, yes, Leo DeVries was very, very good. Hit over 500 last week or close to it. And I am willing to accept the fact that I am leaving him off the risers list for this week, mainly just because to get some new names out there. He was great. I expect if he just keeps doing this, he's just going to get promoted again and again. And it might be in the big leagues much sooner than we expected. But right now, he played right. But those are not the three names that I wanted to focus on this week. The first is the Athletics' Colby Thomas. I don't know what's gotten into the Athletics, but for a long time, it just seemed like everything that they did just failed. Like they would trade for these prospects, and then the guys would show up and they would hit 220 or kind of flame out as major leagues. But over time, they've between Nick Kurtz and then they've got Jacob Wilson. Now they've Lawrence Butler has been a guy, and then you also now have Gunnar Hoglund, and then you have Colby Thomas down there at AAA, and he hit over 400 last week, 7 for 24, hit 2 home runs, drove in 10 runs, scored. I mean, he hit 3 doubles, wasn't striking out a ton. The guy just mashed, and I think that he kind of warrants a little bit of consideration because he's not a name that we really think of when we think of top prospects because he's just kind of maybe not super toolsy, I guess is the best way to describe him. Not describe him, but at the same time can really hit and has some real pop to him. The next one's the Mariners. Lazaro Montes had a really good week. 8 for 17, scored 5 runs, hit 2 homers, 4 walks. Again, has an exciting skill set. I think that the Mariners might be particularly excited about his development, considering the fact that they don't have anyone on that team that can really hit all that well, or at least don't have the present talent to really kind of get any more than what they're currently getting out of them. So hopefully he gets to show up soon. And then I wanted to find a pitcher, and this is going to be another painful one because we have to go back to the Red Sox now. Peyton Tolley. So when the Red Sox drafted him, I was really skeptical about this pick just because he was felt like a fastball only guy, and it was a weird fastball. Everyone liked the metrics on it, but it was usually it sat in low 90s, occasionally touched the mid 90s, but it was a lot of extension, kind of drops it right on hitters and has some run to it. So it's kind of one of those Okay, I mean, like, it's more deceptive, but he didn't really have the secondaries to do it. Now he has a plus changeup, and his sliders is a plus pitch, and he's just dominating guys. And like, I see a world where at midseason he's going to be a top 100 prospect, which, obviously the Red Sox were really short on those to begin with. So I'm glad that they found a way to find another guy that's particularly talented. Had a start last week, went 5 innings, struck out 12 guys. And he's just a guy who is constantly striking out batters. So hopefully it works out and he can kind of continue to do that. But he was really great last week.
Yeah, and another I can't stop striking out batters guy, as if Boston Brandon Clark, like they just keep uncovering these guys, and I thought Tolley was going to be a reliever, and maybe he still will be, but for now, a lot of reason to believe. Unfortunately, on the flip side, you've got some pretty big names struggling this week.
Yeah, and again, just because the guy's on the fallers list doesn't mean that I'm wanting to fire them into the sun and they're going to be bad forever, but they weren't particularly good last week. The first one is Samuel Basallo, a guy who I really like. I like his bat anyway. I'm still a little bit skeptical that he actually sticks at catcher, but at the same time, he's a guy that we have generally liked. He's pretty talented. Baltimore has kind of a weird choice to make in terms of what to do with him, considering they have Adley Rutschman, but also the team isn't playing very good. So why do you rush him right now? It's kind of a weird situation. So he was dealing with kind of a couple injuries. He had elbow issues, had a hamstring early in the season, came back on the 25th and only has 5 hits totals. So April 25th through now, only 5 hits. You just expect better from like one of the better prospects in baseball. Still like him a lot, but it's not a particularly great week and a half or so. Next one's J.J. Weatherholt, 7th overall pick by the Cardinals. I loved this guy at the draft. I think he had the best hit tool in the draft by a significant margin, and I think St. Louis got really lucky to get him where they got him. He just had some health stuff that prevented him from going higher than this. Glad that he got picked that high, and also that I'm less glad that the Cardinals got him. So this season, he started playing really well. He was hitting like 300, but then he got sick, maybe missed like a week and a half. And since he's gotten back 2 hits in his last 6 games, he's going to be fine. He's going to hit, but right now, not an ideal situation. The last name is a name that didn't play last week, and that was Cam Caminiti for the Braves. The more and more I hear whispers, and the more and more he sits out, I wonder how serious this forearm injury of his is. We keep hearing these updates that he has, forearm soreness, but he's building up arm strength. Generally, when it takes this long and the rumors have persisted for a long time, there's a real concern to me that he's going to require Tommy John. And again, didn't throw very much last year after being drafted. He fell in the draft, which always makes you a little bit spooked. Was there an injury issue? Was there a character issue? Why did he fall much further than we all thought he was going to get picked? But when he's right, it's a lefty who has multiple potential plus pitches. But we have not seen him, and it is now May 6th, and there's been scant little in terms of updates. Now the Braves are not particularly great about updating people on prospect injuries. They just kind of throw guys out there and be like, surprised they're back. But at the same time, you would expect to at least hear something, considering this is a first-round pick from last year. And we just haven't heard anything. And again, the rumor mill doesn't seem particularly positive about him going forward, at least in the short term.
Yeah, I would agree that typically what follows, not just this diagnosis, but you date it all the way back to the draft, like backdate it to the an earlier fall and confusing, obscured. Not that we're going to get a proliferation of information around the MLB draft ever, but you've already watched a fall and now you've watched a long buildup. It's sort of fair to have these questions. One final thought before we sign off for the day. Another guy who I honestly thought might be, I don't think I was alone in thinking could have been the rookie of the year last year, and Evan Carter is back in the bigs. He was called up while we were on Baseball Insider yesterday with Robert Murray, and the comment section was on it. As they always are. They're hitting us. They're spamming us going, Carter back to the Rangers. And I'm like, oh, wow. Is that true? Yes, it's real. Congrats to our commenters. You guys are always good. He's been better at AAA lately, but I think Evan Carter is too good a prospect for me to care about him being marginally better at AAA, especially after what I saw during the Rangers World Series run. Like, slight improvements, getting the average up to 239 or whatever it is, after time at Round Rock doesn't necessarily inspire me to say, oh yeah, now he's ready to conquer the world. What went wrong here, and what do you think we see from the renewed version of Evan Carter?
I like Kevin Carter's bat, and I like the talent. I worry about his back because he has had multiple back issues now that have caused him problems. And frankly, since the first time the back started bothering him, even the times where he came back, he has not looked the same. So for me, if he's completely healthy, I think he is an above-average regular. I think he's got an asset to that Texas offense, which has frankly looked terrible this year, even though it really, really shouldn't. And I'm sorry, but hiring Brett Boone isn't going to fix that problem. I'm kind of with you. I was underwhelmed by his AAA performance, and when they said they were calling him back up, it felt like, oh, we're calling this guy up because we don't have to change a roster, 40-man spot out, and this is a guy who we've kind of called up before. He has the talent to be good, but not a guy who's earned the call up again. So I like Evan. I hope he does well. I just have some long-term health until he can play a full season and perform well without hurting his back. I am going to be skeptical because, again, when you have multiple of the same sort of injury and it takes him out for a long time, and if you have a bad back, that affects everything. It affects your ability to swing, affects your ability to move laterally in the field. These are all not problems you want to have, especially as a young guy coming into the league. So until I can kind of see him stay healthy and his back looks good, I'm a little bit skeptical.
That's a great insight and good for everyone to remember. And our Rangers fans, we are rooting for Evan Carter. We will hopefully see the real Evan Carter, but that's a legitimate reason to be skeptical, not just the middling AAA performance. We will be back here next Tuesday, noon Eastern time, talking prospects again and the recap of the week of the minor leagues. We're going to be back here on this feed with Robert Murray tomorrow, 1:00 Eastern time. Friday, fun cast of guest hosts, big new shows over the course of the next week and a half or so. So stay tuned. We're going to have some fun experimental stuff on the feed. Until next Tuesday, I'm Adam Weinrib, Eric Cole. Thank you again for talking us through all of this and a hefty dose of optimism. Although the Red Sox position, somehow the Red Sox added 3 more viable major league contributors while we were talking. So the position crunch is even worse than it was when we did the segment 8 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun looking at the prospects kind of getting called up and, how the roster movement happens over the next few weeks, because that's all that stuff matters with, perception heading into the trade deadline. Might be positioning guys to make call-ups, once service time isn't necessarily a problem. So these next few weeks are really going to matter, and I'm going to be excited to kind of chronicle it with you, even though it might involve more Red Sox names than you're probably excited to see.
Yeah, probably will, and that's okay. I know what my fate is. I do this prospect show, and they have a lot of prospects. We will see you next Tuesday at noon Eastern time. Again, join us on the Discord if you have not. Get your questions in between shows for Eric, Robert, and myself. Subscribe to the Moonshot, and join us on the Baseball Insiders feed on Fansided.com as well. Fansided.com/baseball-insiders for the supplementary Eric Cole piece to today's show, plus plenty more great content. Until tomorrow on this feed, we'll see you there, and next week for the next prospect show here, noon Eastern time on Tuesday. For Eric Cole, I'm Adam Weinrib. Take care.